we hope to share a little bit about what we're about in this brief video. What is our purpose? First articulated 8 years ago. Vulnerable, courageous connection is the new norm. We hope that when we put in the work, basically, find a way to be vulnerable and courageous, the benefits are so huge. The intimate connection with self and with other that we find is so worth it that people will want to do more of that and less consuming and making each other crazy like we seem to be doing these days. Context. Games. Are these really games? Well, we hope that we can invite both reverence and playfulness in. So yes, people grow and heal in connection game spaces. We touch on really, really tender spaces, and we hope that we can kind of avoid the sort of holier than thou attitude, or the very serious to the point of being dour and not feeling good vibes that sometimes show up in spaces like this. So we really want to highlight playfulness, not at the expense of the reverence and the depth, but as a way to add to it. Now here are our 5 connections, 5 kinds of connection, and exemplified by our core principles. So our core principles evolved over time. We started with 3, and I'll introduce them in order that they were discovered by us. And at some point in the last couple of months, looking at those 5 principles, we said, like, oh my God, these actually reflect 5 entirely different kinds of connection, and those 5 connections together make life worth living. So let's get started with practice self-leadership. So we, I guess I should have mentioned, we come from the background of circling and authentic relating. That's where I got started 15 years ago. So they have this honor self agreement, and we wanted to make it a little bit more clear what it is to do, which is we practice self-leadership. So when I'm practicing self-leadership, I know where my boundaries are. I choose to take care of myself, go to the restroom if that's what I need to do. I interact from this place of autonomy where I'm not here to be pushed around, or if I am being influenced, at some point I realize that I have some choice in the matter. And when we each practice self-leadership, it makes the game so much more fun. And that would be C1, connection to self. The second part is invite vulnerable connection, and we used to call this return to vulnerable connection, but we generalized it a bit. And the idea is that, when I'm practicing self-leadership, you're practicing self-leadership, we may bump into each other, and Connection Games doesn't shy away from conflict. We try to hold that conflict well and to resolve it towards greater depth and greater intimacy with each other. So what is needed for that is for us to really start with vulnerability and connection as goals, so that when things happen, we already know that everybody in this group is here for the same reason, right? Is here with the same values. And this would be C2, the partner or dyad connection. And my sense is that everyone who comes into a Connection Games event is looking for C2 and C3. Core principle number 3 is consider group health. So what often happens is that people get really caught up in what's happening. When I say we have a group of 6, a group of 12, whatever it is, right? And something's really alive between 2 people. And the question is, what else is happening in the background? And not that should be your entire focus, right? That's why we say consider group health. But can you keep in the back of your mind, like, oh, there's this person in the corner, they seem a little bit sad. Is there a way to invite them in to check in with them? Or the facilitator is talking too much. Do I take it? I'm getting a little bored. Can I actually speak out, trusting that maybe there's a couple of other people who are being bored, who are feeling bored as well? So those are examples of how we can consider group health. And my intention is to delegate, to deputize everyone in the group towards caring for the group, because that makes the space so much safer, and we ourselves learn the skill of attuning to a group and speaking out on behalf of it. So those were our initial 3 principles. And after a while, we found a fourth principle, which actually makes all other three possible and easier, which is principle 0, open to not knowing. And we had a sense that the numbers actually belong, like 1 is self because it's first person, 2 is second person. And this is C0, which is connection to source or life. We're definitely non-denominational and we don't try to preach, but there is a sense of prayerfulness or reverence or a connection to source that we find, even if we're in it for C2 and C3, really, really important to go back and I like to say, take my C0 and C1 vitamins, connect to source, connect to self, and that makes C2 and C3 so much easier. And then finally, our latest, like 2024 latest principle is take it home and grow corn. Grow corn. There's a Native American saying apparently that says, if you have 2 choices, choose the one that grows corn. In other words, that does something real in your life, in your community. We have been challenged. Connection games type facilitators, circling authentic relating facilitators. There's this Facebook group, and somebody posted something I'll never forget, where he said, "So, are you guys taking these skills home to the people you really love and care about, or are you just creating artificial containers where you can get over your lack of social skills?" Ooh, and I immediately thought, touche. Like, that is something that is really important to me, that we don't just experience these 2 or 3 hours together in isolation where we get to feel good together, but we actually take home specifics. And the nice thing about connection games is, I'll show you in a second, we have so many games that so many of them are super easy to bring home with almost no setup, so that you can, so they really can grow corn in your life, where you can notice some change. And that would be the C4 of community or world. So these are our purpose, context, and 5 core principles. Just a couple more quick things. Here is the Connection Games menu. It's sort of ever changing, but these kind of 18 to, depending on like our birthday circles, different from wedding circles. So 18 to 25 games are the ones that we've been playing, and they're really carefully curated over 8 years. Sometimes something new sneaks in, but mostly we love these games and we think they're awesome. We actually don't think they're more important than the 5 core principles. We could just sit down in a room and practice just sit, try to keep the 5 core principles, and I think that would be a lovely conversation. But these are the games that we will practice. And the facilitator usually chooses dynamically based on what's alive in the moment. And you notice they're green, yellow, and red. Those would be the mild, medium, and spicy sections of the menu. And how would you get to experience connection games? We really took a giant break starting with COVID, but in 2024 we've been energized. We have facilitator trainings that are creating lots of leaders, and we're able to offer, first of all, that facilitator training. We'd love to get together for over 6 months and really get to know all the games, really get to know each other, build trust. And that's when Connection Games really clicks, is when we do it time and time again. We used to have in-person, groups in Berkeley and San Francisco that met every week for 6 months, a year at a time. So those are pretty accessible. They only open up probably the next one won't be until September, but stay tuned. 7-day retreats, again, the same idea of practicing Connection Games over time with the same people. We have a 7-day retreat in Montpellier, France. We hope to have new ones in Quebec and California at some point. Weekend workshops, please help us plan. We have lots of momentum towards these cities that you see here. And then finally, One Connected Life coaching. One Connected Life is kind of the parent organization of Connection Games. It includes productivity coaching, relationship agreements, energy work, fusion partner dance, like all these things that kind of can be approached with a similar the similar vibe that we offer in Connection Games. So please ask us about any of this stuff, and we're looking forward to seeing you in person.